Okay, good evening. Welcome to the March 15th, 2022 meeting of the Finance Committee. This evening we have a couple things on our agenda. We have a transfer request from the DPW that we will go over. We are meeting with the school department to discuss fiscal year 23 budget. We also have the Recreation Commission coming in to discuss fiscal year 23 budget. And then our town administrator to give an update on overall budget process so far. So with that, we have John Haynes with us. John?
Good evening. Thank you for taking the time to meet with me tonight. I will say I'm here for only the second time in 25 years that I'm requesting, the need has arisen to request an emergency transfer. Our aerial lift, which is a frontline piece of equipment, other people, we refer to as aerial lift, but it's our tree truck, the man lift that we use to perform day-to-day operations, emergency response, all things related to storms, is 20-plus years old. And in that 20 years, this request that I'm coming forward with is the first significant repair that this unit has needed. The unit is scheduled to be replaced in 2024. We're hoping to get another couple of years out of it. We still to the upper cylinder of the aerial lift, the lower cylinder being removed, updated, and the cylinders replaced, replacing both upper and lower cylinder cables, and removing and replacing the leveling cables, which are essentially keeps the operator level while the aerial lift goes 60-plus feet in the air. This one repair represents essentially 1/3 of our entire equipment repair budget, annual appropriation, so to try and absorb that within our operating budget just honestly isn't feasible, especially with still looking at another full quarter of the year to go through.
Request is $21,069.37.
Correct.
Oh, so then the present balance that you listed here, that's what was left in
At the time that I
at the
submitted,
time?
yes.
Okay, gotcha.
And the request is based on the actual estimate that we received from Q's, which is the company up in New Hampshire that will actually perform the repair.
I'd make the motion to transfer from reserve account to DPW maintenance, or whatever the line item would be, the sum of $21,069.37 for repairs to the aerial lift.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. All good.
you.
We'll sign this and I'll leave it for Rebecca tonight.
Appreciate the support.
Absolutely.
Get this turned around and back on the road, hopefully within 2 or 3 months.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
So there's 3 copies. We'll pass it around. No, that's fine. You can. We're ahead of schedule, which is always good. Is Liz coming too, or? Yeah, okay, all right.
Sorry, I guess I can pass them down as I go.
As soon as we get the copies signed, we will move on to the school department.
Recreation commission tonight.
They're coming tonight too, yep.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you. That's okay.
You in double duty?
It's been, feels like Friday already this week. Liz was right behind me. She should be here any minute.
Yeah, no problem. We're a few minutes ahead of schedule. How's everything going at the schools?
It's going good.
Spirit Week, right?
Yeah, March Madness week.
March Madness.
Yeah. It's going good.
It was,
It's
yeah.
funny, today was tourist, and I didn't understand what it meant, but no backpack day.
Oh, yeah.
So kids weren't supposed to wear backpacks, so
I saw some of those
they were
things.
carrying their books and things. One kid walked around with a mini refrigerator all day.
I thought myself,
was it?
flaming cooler.
What did he have?
Mini fridge?
Yeah,
Stop it. I feel like anything with wheels is really like beneficial.
Yeah, I don't know how he did it. It was, Tom Ken?
Rob.
No. Sean Ken.
Sean.
Yeah, it was funny watching them. I was coming in as they were leaving for the day, and all the different things that they were carrying, all their books.
I saw the power wheels, the pink power wheels in the hall.
Quickly, while we're waiting, so I'm just going to summarize the request. I think there might have been a little issue with the audio. So did you get the vote or no? Okay. Yes, we'll do that again. So we had DPW Director John Hainson requesting a transfer from the Finance Committee fund for some repairs tied to the aerial lift that's used for tree work. Yes, sorry. The amount of the transfer was $21,069.37. With that, then, can we just make the motion and,
Yep, so I again make the motion that we approve the transfer from the reserve account to the account DPW equipment repairs and maintenance, the sum of $21,069.37
Yeah.
to permit repairs to the aerial lift.
we have a motion?
Second.
Second from Dave. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. We are good. We're on record now.
Have you guys met Tim before?
Hi, Tim McLaughlin.
I think we have. How are you?
Hey.
Was on the way up.
Yeah, she was walking out right behind me. She had that strategic planning meeting tonight.
Oh, yeah.
Crystal, you're in charge of filler.
I know. I was hoping
Oh,
Zach could play some background music or something.
Yeah.
I was just gonna check in on the soccer game that was going on that my middle kid is playing.
Ah,
Last week, the ball came towards him, like it was speeding right at him, and I was like, what's he gonna do? Because he got hit in the stomach the game before that, so there was hesitancy. He dropped right to the ground on all fours, like flat to the ground, and I was like, that was unexpected.
They start outdoor already?
How are you?
Or is it
Good, how
No,
are
he's
you?
indoor.
Sorry about that as I walked out.
A couple more weeks
Eric
indoor.
grabbed me.
Oh, no problem. We're a few minutes ahead of schedule. All right, so we have the school department with us. Superintendent Legault, John Shea, Business Administrator, and Tim McLaughlin, the Chair of the School Committee. Thank you for coming out tonight. We appreciate it. We'll turn the floor over to you to walk us through the 23 budget.
Making sure you had a tie on, but.
Tourist, right?
Thank you for having us. It's been a great year so far. Now that the masks are off, everybody's smiling, and it's getting back to normal. Last 2 years have been a little bit tough for the kids, but other than that, I can say that the kids have done a great job making it through. The parents stuck with us, and our teachers are doing some great work for us. So, 2023 budget presentation. I won't do every slide. I don't think that's, we've gone through the public hearing, but I would like to talk about a few of the things that'll drive the budget. Tonight, we have a strategic planning meeting. We have our administrators came in an hour before our parents and community members. We have some community members and parents down there now. That drives what we're going to do, curriculum instruction-wise, our social emotional work that we're working with students, and some of the programs and planning that we have in place for the upcoming years. That drives their school improvement plans as well as the district improvement plan, and the other piece would be the CBAs that we have going on. They all drive the budget. The nice part about tonight's budget presentation, or maybe not so nice part, is we are going to come up with a different number than we did at the last week. We have a tentative agreement with the Teachers Association, the EBEA. Earlier on today, we signed the agreement. Tim will sign it after this meeting, and then we'll go from there. So this is the first time. I talked to Barbara Polisi, who's been in the district over 15 years, almost 20 years now. This is the first time that the budget's ever, or the collective bargaining agreement with the Teachers Association has ever been done this early. We went out, we talked to, we have a good relationship with our union. We have a good relationship with our teachers. I think it's a respectful contract. It will come up tonight. The number will come out this evening. So, but I told them that we needed to get this up here in front of FinCom before we go any further so that we can get it on the floor. The school committee will certify the budget. I believe that Tim will bring it to certify it on Tuesday night of next week at the school committee. We've had our budget hearing. We've had time to put it out. If you wanted a budget, if you wanted it, it's up online, up on the school website. We also have paper copies in my office, and they'll certify it on Tuesday night. All right?
That's great.
So that's the big driver. As you know, we've been waiting for that. So on page 3, it's really the cost of doing business. Most school costs are federal and state mandated. They're fixed and unavoidable. There's a lot of things that we can't change, can't do, and some things are just unavoidable that we have to pay for, and that we have to make sure that our budget can house and control. If the district has maintained the current quality of its programs and services and continue to grow and improve, the budget increases are a necessity. If we're going to maintain the level of instruction for our students, we need to have the curriculum that is up to date, and we are on a curriculum cycle. It's a 5-year cycle, so each English, health, languages, science, math, they'll all have a pilot year. We pilot a program. We let our teachers choose the best program. It's up to date, it's current, it's under the DESE mandates, and it's something that we've been using, and it's working out quite well. This year this year is an off year, so John got it easy. Last year it was ELA, and I think it was upward of 250,000 last year, and this is an off year, so next year we'll come back into the cycle. So I did mention this at last week's meeting. Currently, we are ranked 310 out of 320 districts under the per pupil expenditure of the state. We get $13,439 per student, and the state's average is $17,575. I share that with you not only to say, yeah, we're low However, what we do and how we allocate our funds, I do think that the District of East Bridgewater and the town of East Bridgewater is doing an adequate job of bringing programming, efficient number of teachers, and doing what's right for the students and allocating more money towards students than in other areas of our budget. So we make sure that we have a low student-to-teacher ratio. We make sure that our curriculum and instruction is current, and we continue to make sure that when we do business, we're doing it, vetting it, and making sure that it is current, and that we're working with other school districts and DESE to make sure that the kids have what they need. So, would I like to be 210 out of 350? Of course I would. However, we're in a small town. I can understand what we need to do, but I think what we've done since my tenure coming into the district, I think what we've done with our monies has helped and supported the district to move ahead.
Just as a question.
Sure.
You're saying the average is 17 and change. What number, if you know or have an approximation, gets you to 210? What moves you up 100? Where does that, 15,000, something like that, 14,000, in that neighborhood?
Probably 16,000 plus. Yeah. There are some districts that are over, I mean, obviously,
Oh, sure,
median
yeah,
is
that's,
17, so
obviously,
you'll,
there's, yep. That's why,
Right.
I asked the question, to understand what
but I
sort
can
of the
cer-
halfway
I-
point is.
I can look at that
Yeah,
and find that
yeah,
out.
just that-
Chapter 70 funding goes into that
Yes,
formula?
yes.
Okay.
Well, the per pupil expenditure is based upon all the
All
expenses.
right.
Including the town allocated costs, like health insurance, and, so it's not just the expenses that we're talking about here, it's also the expenses that the town allocates to us at the end of the year, that I include on the end of year report, health insurance, the
DPW, when they clean.
DPW work that they do at the school, so it's all encompassing.
Soup to nuts for how to run the district, not just direct student support.
Some of the additional factors that impact this budget or all budgets is, especially this year, we've had an increase in hospitalizations, an increase in low-income students. We've increased our homeless and foster care students. Our students with English as a second language, or ELL students, or ELs that you would call them, has increased, and students with emotional impairment, disability on IEP. And the last is inflation. So all of them are impacting the 2023 budget, but unfortunately, I would look at it as hospitalizations and low-income students in our homelessness. We have a lot of homeless students, more than we've ever had, and they're traveling a big distance right now.
And I think when Crystal and I met with you and John, Liz, I thought it was really helpful to maybe just explain a little bit more about what that means, because I think
Okay.
Remember, that was a big number I think it was a
Yeah.
lot of surprise to us last year, and
It's
obviously
starting,
it's.
yeah, so hospitalizations, we have seen an increase in that, and those are students that have tried to harm themselves, that are either taken from their home and hospitalization, or taken from school and transported in hospitalization. And what that encompasses is we have to continue to provide them with an education, tutoring when they're out of school. So we'll offer tutoring, we'll make sure that our adjustment counselors go see them. We'll make sure that we are in contact with that student and parent. We have more free and reduced lunches. And the last couple of years, they've been free due to COVID, the lunch program. But what we're finding is people did lose their jobs. People our community members and our parents are filling out the forms more readily for the free and reduced lunches. That has gone up. We were at one point in the district, we were at 18%, and we're well over 24%. Is it 20?
Right now, we're at 33%.
33%. So it's like we went from 17 to 24, and now we're at 33%. So I mean, we're on a trend moving up. Our homeless and foster care students, the school of origin, where the child was at his the last day of school, and the child goes to homelessness the following day, that is the school that they will remain in. So if I'm in East Bridgewater and I go into foster care, or I go, or I'm kicked out, or my parents are kicked out of the house and we're homeless, and I'm put in a shelter by DCF, I have the right, and DCF will continue to put the child back in East Bridgewater. We've had families from Lawrence this year. We've brought in families from New Bedford, and there are kids, but DCF has found a placement and put them in either Middleborough, New Bedford, Fall River, Lawrence, Methuen? Brockton. I think we have one in Methuen, right? So, and we have to provide transportation. So if we can't find a van, we're paying 58.5 cents a mile to a parent. So if you're driving 90 miles a day, I don't know, $500 a week we're gonna give to the parent. So we have to do that. That's a cost that we did not intend to have. We didn't know about it. It's a cost that just incurred because family became homeless. So that has been, that's driving this budget up. I will say that.
And I think it's important to note that these are not just East Bridgewater issues right now. Every district, every town across the Commonwealth, across the US right now, these are conversations they're having. A lot of this is post-COVID, and it's a struggle everywhere. So this is not specific to our town and our community.
The ELL population is growing. Students that have a second language or do not speak any English at all. We continue to increase, and if you go to page, I think 6, you'll see that, in FY '21, we had 49 students. FY '22, we had 64 students. So if you're gaining, students each year, that's another teacher. It's another classroom. There are different levels of ELL. So you've got beginner, immersion. So a beginner would come in with no English skills at all. So they would say in a self-contained classroom to learn English for a part of the day and then be included in gym, in the lunch, music class, places where maybe you might not need to understand English totally, but you could get through by being included and be around your peers. Then you would go to the next level, and so beginners would stay in a self-contained room with one teacher and a support staff member. The next would be, I think it's intermediate, immersion, where now a student will stay in the self-contained class for a couple of hours and then go out, but someone would go out with them to help them and support them in their language. So as we increase, we're increasing tutors for these students. We're increasing another teacher for these students so that we can have a student going out, or we can have a teacher in the inclusion classes following the students. We can also have a self-contained room. And this is throughout the district. We have also, we can go a year and a half. So a student can be 14, they could be in a classroom with a 15 and a half to 16-year-old student. So we might have, a 9th and a 10th grader in the same room because they're a beginner, or a 3rd and a 4th grade, they're in the same classroom. But if these kids come in and one's in 3rd and one's in 6th, we can't do that. Mm-hmm. So you're opening up more classrooms, more tutor services. We also have program. We are connected to a translation service that is costing the district money. It's its own school almost. It's its own silo.
Yeah.
So that's driving us. And if you look at page 7, 692 students are free and reduced lunch or low-income students. 692 students is more students than we have at Central School. So if you think of Central School, and because someone asked me, well, what's 692 students? You only have, 2,021 students in your whole district. I said, okay, but if Central School is at 680 students, we have 692 students that are free and reduced lunch. So put that throughout the district. So these students are, you know, they might not be sleeping well, their nutrition level is low, they might not, so they're hungry, their attention span is lower, we have to put more services into them. We know that data would suggest that low-income students are more at risk of getting on an IEP, because they don't have services around them, or they don't have support at home. And it's unfortunate, and we try everything we can, but it's one of our costs. Number of homeless and foster care students, you can see that. It's gone up, and it will continue to go up. We see this a lot, especially with the, I think we'd say the moratorium on eviction, of tenant eviction is now over. You can evict, and if you're not paying your rent and you don't have the money to pay your rent, you can be evicted. If they're evicted, they become homeless. The school of origin still retains that student. So this is a cyclical. It's just cycle. It's rough, because we'll see these kids, you know, between myself, Brockton, and Middleborough, we may see a student keep coming around. We had a student go to Brockton, come back to us, go to Brockton, come back to us, New Bedford, go to there, come back to us. It's just, and it's not good for their education, and it's not good for their social well-being. So. And we have, Jay Phelan gave me, our Director of Special Education, wanted to put this in on page 8. It's the social work intern counseling cases. We bring in extra social workers, adjustment counselors from the North River Collaborative, a collaborative that we belong to. Instead of paying $90,000 for an adjustment counselor, these are students that are already adjustment counselors, but they're in their last year, so they can get their DESE certification. So they can do their clinicals, speak to our students, work to our students, and they just need the hours to get the DESE certification. So this is a great program. They have been a tremendous asset to the district, because we need more adjustment counselors in the district, truthfully. So if you see, just in September 2020 to January 2021, these social work interns saw 10 kids at Central School, had 10 cases that they were working on. And that's one of the interns, because we have one intern at each of our buildings. In 2021, September to January 2022, now they have 75 at Central on their cases. That's excluding what our own adjustment counselor, who's hired by the district, who we have one in each building now, so their probably caseload's 105, and this one's 7, and so an intern is at 75. So it is this is what's wreaking havoc. And I hate to say it, but I'm not so concerned about the money as I am concerned about the child's well-being. And the social work interns have been doing a tremendous job for us. We're part of the collaborative, so we I think it was at 14,000, 17,000
Each one, yeah.
each one. So instead of paying 90,000, we pay 14,000 to the collaborative, and a social worker or a adjustment counselor will come down. And we've had them at the buildings, one at each building, working with students on a daily basis. So it is driving the cost. I'll go to page 10, which is chapter 70, because this is where it really comes into play, where you can see that the state now has identified us and sees that our free and reduced rate, lunch rate, has gone up. If you look 218, 219, 220, 221, 222, you can see we are getting, for chapter 7, our increases over those periods of time, 64,000, 65,000. 2020 was 237,000, meaning that probably the year our free and reduced was up, our lunch rate was up. 2021 was 147,000. In 2022, last year, we received $62,000 additional to our Chapter 70 funding. That's it. If you look to 2023, this year, we will receive $1,142,815, meaning they've identified us as, you have now gone over that that threshold of free and reduced, and we're gonna give you some money. What comes with that is this counseling services, the, making sure they have counseling, making sure they have tutoring services, making sure they have transportation, making sure that any resources that these students need, we have. So we see $1 million and people say, oh geez, you know, they went from $60,000 to $1 million. Well, that money's gonna be used for those 692 students who now need more services, more supports. So I know that people see that and they say, well, you got the $1 million, what more do you need? Well, that's for services,
The reason we're
that's for
doing it.
supports. I'll now go, you have John's model and all of his worksheets in here, and you can see, and I think we gave this to you before, Dan, as it goes through, and Melanie, as it goes through, and I'll go to the new initiatives. I'm gonna skip all that, because this is, as the hard work that John does, and does a tremendous job on, it's cumbersome to look at. I would ask that, you know, we have a lot of grants, we use them. I don't think that he leaves a nickel on the table when it comes to any grant funding that we have. We're using everything that we can to make sure that we're doing right by our students. So I would push you to the end, and then I'm gonna get into the CBA. The new initiatives is, we're looking at, well, we did this year, we got a grant to do Acceleration Academies, which is on page 30. These Acceleration Academies were February vacation, there'll be April vacation, and then we'll run one in the summer. And these academies go for students who showed at risk on our diagnostic testing in math. And so Dr. Williams, her facilitators, and some teachers looked at where kids needed help. We brought kids in over the February vacation. These are Vacation Acceleration Academies, and they're terrific. We don't lose you. We keep you, you know, we got our hands on you. So, because a week away, sometimes the student won't have, we serve lunches, we had snacks, and the kids were together throughout this time. So they were great.
I saved my kid.
Oh, right. So, but these are new initiatives, and they do cost. We did get an acceleration grant this year for that. How long that will last, and how many, you know.
It was great. It got him back up to where he needed to be in math. I know we lost a lot during remote learning. I could tell he was kind of doing one of these remote learnings.
I can tell you this, Dr. Williams, I asked Dr. Williams to present, not at I don't think the next meeting, but the following school committee meeting, she's gonna present on the Acceleration Academy and show where the kids started from,
Yeah.
why we asked them to come to the camp, and then where they are today. We have it started about 2 years ago with our early college programming. And we want students to be able to get a college credit while in high school, so that when they get to college and they start to go to college, some kids may have 12 credits, 6 credits, 18 credits. So then it's almost having a year under your belt, or a few credits, and parents could be able to save some money as the child goes to school. Plus, we have a lot of electives at the high school level right now. We have 110 credits to graduate. We have some kids that go up to about 150 credits because there's a lot of electives, and our kids love the electives, but kids could take a college course during the day and get a college credit if they would like. I look at it like this: if we're gonna offer extended school year for students that have IEPs, there's no reason not to offer something like this. We started a consortium, myself and 10 other schools in the South Shore, and we are negotiating prices with colleges right now. We have an agreement with Assumption. We'll be paying $450 for a course, which is $1,700 if you go to Assumption. So we're saving money. We're trying to put something together, whether we pay $50 and help the family allow their child to go to school, or we get a grant and pay for all of it. So these are some initiatives that we have going on. We are looking at a public safety academy. I met with Chief Herron a few times, and now we're working with our own fire department, Captain Kelly. A fireman in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts needs to be 18 years old and have a high school diploma and then be an EMT and then take the fire academy courses. We would like to offer this at the high school level in their 11th and junior, senior year, where students would get credit, would take the EMT course, would walk across stage, be 18 years old, have the EMT, already have an internship going back and forth to the fire, to East Bridgewater, and hopefully Chief Aaron would put them into the academy the following year. This is something that the chief and I have talked about for a couple of years now. We put it into action this year. We're offering EMT right now, CNA, Certified Nursing courses, EMR classes. We offered a babysitting course for kids this year that has first aid and CPR in it. And kids have come back and parents are like, this is great. My daughter can babysit on the weekends. And so we took care of this, and we used ESSER funding for this because that's what those grants were used for, to get kids to school, to work. And certificate programs. We're working with Stonehill College right now on a photonics certificate, which is using light to send messages in a grid, like a fiber optic, but it would be using light. That certificate program is a 1-year program. Student can graduate, a 2-year program, and a student can graduate East Bridgewater, walk across with their high school diploma and a certificate, and be hired immediately at Amazon or a Walmart storage facility, that runs on the grids. And we went Gina and I had a webinar, Dr. Williams and I had a webinar with them. It was fantastic. They told us that other schools that had done this year, kids are going out, they're starting at $45,000 a year with a high school diploma and their certificate. Parents didn't have to pay for the college, didn't have to pay for the certificate. They received it in high school and they went out and got to work. That's something that some kids aren't going to go to college. Not every kid is going to go. So I want to make sure that we're doing everything for all students. We have some capital projects. Obviously,
Meeting with capital next week.
yeah, we have capital next week. But that's in there. And then we've got some pictures. And then I'll wait for that other discussion, and I want to move to the CBA. We met last night, or we've met the last couple of months with the East Bridgewater Education Association. 2 weeks ago, we brought to the floor a budget total of $21,979,438. And that would be, I think, on page 4. Which I almost said one slide, page 4. 5, sorry, page 5. Yeah, page 5. So last year, we started with, where we are today and where we'll be tomorrow. This sheet is all revised. This was revised today after we signed. The 2022 budget is $21,979,438. What we need now is $23,607,473, which is an increase of $1,628,035. Our state funding, $12,199,950, or an increase of $1,142,000. Town funding, which was given to us last year, 2022, was $10,922,303. At this point, we are asking for an increase of $458,220.
So when I do that math, it's actually 485,220.
Is it? Maybe it was my typo, or I'll say it was my typo.
I thought I was going crazy for a minute there.
Could be, but I'm gonna go through my better cheat sheet right here.
Because I was looking on the web and it said 258, and then I knew that it was revised, and I came here. And then when I did the numbers on the back, it came out to 485.
It was probably, well, it's 458, so I bet you it was a typo, so let's say it's 40.
That's what I figured.
Yeah. So, and what has pushed this cost up is the East Bridgewater Association salary. So we presented an increase of 2%. Their salary today of the entire East Bridgewater Association is $14,730,314. We presented 2 weeks ago at $15,377,314. Today, last night, and then this morning in negotiations, we've revised that to $15,577,314, with an increase of $200,000 for the salary scale. It revises the budget, the entire budget, to $23,607,473. The salaries will go up. The entire salary of the entire school district was revised to $19,901,000 on the other sheet at $972, and then there was no change in non-salary or special education at $3,705,501. The agreement, which I have in my hand, which has been signed by Kurt Shippey, myself as the witness, then Tim will sign it tonight, is a 2.5 increase, and then a 0.0. So 2.5 for the first 90 days, a 2.5 for the second 90 days increase, and then a 0.0. Year 2, year 3.
2.5 on top of the original 2.5, 92 days in.
Okay.
So you've seen our salary scale on, ours is not like anybody else's. Ours is very, very different. So the total in the salary schedule is 3.75. That's first year, and then it's a 0.0 going forward. So it's a increase. It's a nominal. It's a big increase.
Also allows costs to be controlled significantly in
Yes.
years 2 and 3.
And then, right, and then going out.
What happened with the step increases? Did those increase also?
I was gonna to say. They have the 2.5 in it. And then, the largest line, they will not move years 2 and 3. We held that. The other, they'll always go down or go across in a lane. So, yes, if I'm a 6th year, if I have a master's degree and I'm an 8th year teacher, I'm gonna make $68,162.50 next year. The following year, going to my 9th year, I'll make $69,700. So yes, there's always a gain. It's never a zero. I mean, it's never a maintaining zero.
But important to note that we didn't add steps on the bottom,
Right.
so those that have reached the maximum are staying at that step T for the next 3 years. There's no
There's no
UBW.
move.
What's the history for the last 3 years? In terms of
Zero,
Last
0.00?
Last 6 years.
last 6 years.
Still moving down the steps, but
Yeah, no, I'm just.
nothing
yeah,
added to those steps.
no, I understand.
So when all's said and done, the town's contribution is roughly a 4% increase.
Yeah, 485, 110.
Yeah.
So would we anticipate the Chapter 70 funding since it's such a large increase and a large portion of this budget, would we anticipate next year receiving at least the same? Or would we be in a situation where we'd have to make up a gap of 500,000,
Well,
600,000?
the way Chapter 70 works is, they don't reduce it, there's always a minimum increase. Like in this year, in the governor's budget this year, in the Chapter 70 formula, I think the minimum increase is $30 per student. Like if you notice in those years, where we received $60,000, no, the foundation budget decreased, which would have meant that Chapter 70 would have decreased, but it didn't, because they gave us the minimum. I think in those years it was $60 a student, or $40 a student. The minimum that the state would give you would be $40 per student. So it wouldn't decrease, but the payment for the next year would increase by $30 a student.
So I'm not clear, because in 2019, it was $65,000. 2020, it was $237,000.
That was the increase. over
Increase.
Previous year.
Right.
Okay. Oh, okay, so it was, all right, okay. All right, I feel better now.
I would like to say, when I first came in 2015, 2016, there was almost 74 people going to be laid off by the teachers. And I came in, and as radical as I am, and as
No.
and as spiky haired as I can be, we changed that. And George, Sammy, and I went to him, and he says, I said, what you're trying to do, let's try to do it. For the last 6 years, we haven't laid off anybody. I have been a predictable, and I say me because I don't want anybody else to take responsibility for that if there's an issue in the district. We have always given a predictable and a sustainable budget. I continue to keep the selectmen, and of course, my counterpart here in the town, our new town administrator, Charlie Seelig, and I have met since he's gotten here, and I've given him everything that I can to say, this is where I am today, this is where we're gonna go, this is what I'm trying to get done. And I try to get John to make sure that, John, show me what it's gonna look like year 1, year 2, year 3, so that I can go to the town and say, this year it's gonna be this, next year it's gonna be this, the following year it's gonna be this, or within, $100,000. We're trying to create a predictable and sustainable budget, so it does not drain on the town, but also create a confident school district where families and parents are confident in what we do at the school level, confident in our teaching abilities and our instructors, confident that we can have sports, music, band, drama, all the extracurriculars, and we're doing it great. We have everything. Our kids really do have everything. I don't want kids to pay for basketball, softball, cheerleading, but we pay to play for sports. We're a public education, and that is part of my vision, and I've said it since the day one here. I want to get us to where I don't want kids to pay. I didn't have to pay to join a game, to join a sport, or to be to be in a club, or to ride a bus. So what we do, we have since I've been here, have not increased bus fees for our students. I've tried to we have to follow the DESE guidelines for food for FDA, so they'll tell Deb Vaughn what we need to charge for the lunches, and she'll keep it within a parameter. We haven't increased that. Our milk charges went up, I think, last year a little bit. Everything's free right now, but they'll go. A couple of years ago, they went up. We've lowered our cost of athletics, drama program, being in the band. We've dropped those because we're really trying to give back. So, yes, it is It's a big budget. We are the largest budget of the town. We're the largest department. We have the largest budget. But what we have done is created a confident school district that's committed to our kids, committed to our families, and saying, hey, listen, we know you're paying your taxes. We know that you want your kids to have a great school district. We need your help. But while you're doing this and we're getting this type of funding, I will try to hold everyone, or, you know, the transportation costs, food costs, and after school extracurricular costs. We'll try to keep them and hold them steady. And we have done that. The teachers have done a good job. We went through COVID. We were flying a plane, and everybody, not just us, DPW, fire, police, everybody did, all across the world. But in East Bridgewater, we were flying a plane. We didn't really, we were building it while we were flying it. We had no map. And within a week's time, my principals, Dr. Williams, myself, John Shea, and Tech got every student a Google Chromebook and made sure that we had every student virtually online within 7 days of shutting down on March 13th. 2020. We then come back around. We did a hybrid system. We've done these teachers have done a tremendous job throughout this course of, I don't know, 2.5 years now. But so did our students. They had to remain in masks up until 2 weeks ago, or February vacation, 3 weeks ago, 2 weeks ago. I can tell you what a difference it has made to see the kids when they took the masks off. We're in a good position. We're doing well. I do expect our MCAS scores to go up, and I know because people look at that and say, you know, how are you doing on MCAS? Well, you know, we're trying, and I think we're doing pretty well. We have new diagnostic testing of iReady that's in the district that we can follow students on a weekly basis as their assessments come in, on a monthly basis. We're looking at things. We can see it. We intervene quicker. We're doing the things that we need to do. We have a professional development program that is top-notch, that Dr. Williams meets once a month with the Academy and make sure that what teachers need, they're getting. And this schedule right here, this is the contract. We're down to like 7 pages. I've taken a lot of language, that used to really hurt the town. And we've taken a lot of that away. We have a predictable and sustainable budget. I ask for your support in this. I did talk to the town administrator today. I did call our school liaison for the selectmen. I've asked for the support for the schools. They've taken zeros for a long time.
I have to echo, I mean, Liz will be the first one to tell you when we started negotiations this winter, I was seriously concerned about what our time frame would be, where we were gonna end up, you know, with runaway inflation, and it is extraordinarily difficult right now to keep people in education. I'm sure you can understand that it's not the greatest time ever to be a teacher right now, so to be able to come to you tonight with hard numbers for the next 3 years, where 3 months ago I wasn't sure we were going to have that by the end of the summer. I'm extraordinarily optimistic that we're able to bring that.
So to echo off of that,
Yep.
are you faced, other departments have talked to us about retirements. Are you faced with the same situation that others are, that do you anticipate many retirements?
So they have to tell, so 2 things. They have to tell us, I have to know before December 1st of the following year, so that I can prepare of what's happening. So we know, are you leaving? It gives us a chance to get out in front. We had 3 retirements that we knew about. I received a 4th one 2 weeks ago that came out of the blue. Person had the time, but did not put it in and said, I want to go. It actually is going to help the district.
Yeah, Dave,
Financially.
when you say are we facing retirements like other departments? What do you,
Well, it's a struggle to get employees, period, for
Oh, yeah.
anything. So to fill teacher positions, and other departments have talked about, retiring the impact on the fire department, the police department, et cetera. So I'm just wondering, are you folks faced with the same
It's not the
challenge?
retirements. It's filling the positions that we need. Adjustment counselors, nurses. Nurses was one of the most difficult positions for us to keep in place and to hire for. During COVID, the visiting nurses program was paying more than what I couldn't even get close. Couldn't even get close. Then we had a couple people that were working in the emergency room, the 72 hours, I think, on the 3 days, Friday night, Saturday, Sunday, come out. We had a couple like that. We had a couple nurses like that we needed. They had come and interviewed, and they were like, "I'll stay for the 3 days," and because they had little kids, and they thought, "Well, I'll come to work for you," and they're like, "Not worth it." They were making almost two times more. That's that position by far. The
Has
nurses
that
by far.
changed, though, at this?
Yes, yep. It changed because of this, yes. And we also offered an incentive through COVID, our COVID monies. We offered an incentive to get nurses. At one point, 4 nurses resigned within a 2-week span. There was a point where it was, the sky was falling, and COVID's going to take over, and it had taken over, and it just got too much. The recording of the data, the making sure that the students were okay. Teachers, there was a panic at some time throughout COVID, and but nurses was one of the keys. One of the keys. But we're in really good shape right now. We have great nurses right now. And I feel that's huge. I do want to say, I wanted to bring up a couple other things that we have Lucini Transportation that I have, and John has worked with Bill Lucini. We have kept that contract solid. I mean, we're only going up to, but we're only, this year, it's an increase of only $12,000 for our buses. I mean, we're holding, I'm doing everything I can to hold everybody, including myself, accountable for our kids, and to try to keep in here and stay in this budget.
And I think it was important, for adding a COLA to the steps, as you referenced, I think Liz needs to be able to stay competitive with other districts at recruiting new teachers too. You mentioned retirements, and it's very difficult to recruit a teacher out of graduate school to come to East Bridgewater and make $62,000 when they can go to Bridgewater and make $68,000, or somewhere else and make whatever else. So as much as we want to control the bottom line and the teachers moving up, we have to be able to bring newer teachers in to stay competitive, or it will fall apart.
To the extent that you can you comment a little bit upon your last bullet point on your last page?
New growth.
Do you have any sense of what that will mean to the district? This is the basic question.
Well, it's a couple things. I have talked to the town administrator a little bit about this. John and I have lots of conversation about this. As you know, Central School is in a tough, it needs help. I have an SOI in to the MSBA. If what is planned is 80 condos, 160 apartments, and 75 homes to come into the East Bridgewater. I don't care what data says about apartment buildings, you're gonna see kids. If there's 40B housing coming in, if we see that, you're going to see students that will need services. If there's low-income housing, there will be services. I think 5 years ago, West Bridgewater developer came in, wanted to put a 40B on Riverbend, the golf course. They fought that because West Bridgewater would not have been able to handle that many 40Bs and the number of students that would come. They would have never been able to handle that. But we have the schools, we have the teachers, and if it's going to come. I mean, we're hooking up water. Sewer, I'm sorry, school choice, my school choice, our school choice, every year, the students that want to come in from Brockton, Abington, Weymouth, is just through the roof. And I don't take them all. You know, I go through them, we look at them, you know, I have, 2 spots in 9th grade. I have 3 spots in 11th grade. I have 1 spot in 12th grade. We don't keep opening spots. What we have is what we have, because we don't want to go more than 33 school choice students. We couldn't handle it. It would overload our classrooms. Yes, it brings in support financially, but it would just, our student, it'd be too much. But this new growth will impact us. It will be great, yes, it will be great for the town, and you'll get more, you might get some tax revenue, and you might get more revenue, and you might get a new restaurant, and you might get more people coming through East Bridgewater. But what that brings is more students. And Central School cannot handle another student. So if this is the case, I've asked to have a feasibility study done through the MSBA, where they will come and do a feasibility study for us in the district, and they'll start at Central School. And I'm going to tell you right now, our structure at Central School, because of the new roof, because of the new boiler, will be okay. We'll be able to keep the structure. And you want the facade, and I know no one wants to lose Central School. I get it. But I can't have a school system that doesn't have access to the 3rd floor for a student in a wheelchair. I can't have a school that is running off battery power for a fire alarm. We have windows that do not open. We have doors that constantly either break or we're having to change. We have rot in the door. I mean, they're changing them constantly. The mods. Yeah, the mods. I mean, if the mods that were there, I mean, they've done great. Like Dr. Williams said, I remember when we brought them in, because she was the principal over there. She goes, we brought them in, they were great because they had air conditioning and they were big and people loved them. If we didn't have 3.5-year-olds in there and we had 18-year-olds in there, they would have fallen apart 7 years ago. We've got little kids, little hands, little feet. They're great. They don't look great. I'm not a mod person. I don't want my kids in a mod. I really don't. But in a year from now, I might have 8 of them sitting out in the back of Mitchell School, 1st grade, 2nd grade, 3rd grade, 4th grade, because this is going to be undertaking a renovation because I've got all these new kids coming in. The structure is it's not safe. We've got to do something about it. The teachers in Central School is wonderful, and I know everybody loves that building, but it needs work. It needs work. The Mitchell School can handle. We believe we can move. We know we can get the 2nd grade into Mitchell School. We know we could get the 1st grade into Mitchell School. We would be tight, but the pre-K and K we wouldn't, so we would need modulars down there. And they may be down there for 2 or 3 years, depending on how long it takes us to have a renovation. The impact of 80 condos, 160 apartments, even if you give me 25 kids, it's an impact. Because what do those 25 kids come with? Transportation, food, teachers, sports. It's an impact. I think it's great for East Bridgewater. I think it's wonderful. But it's going to put.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked to the other departments, public safety and what have you about the same sort of dynamics, and I mean, it's looking at what the future is.
So-
That's part of the whole,
You-
gotta
you
be
can-
part of the whole discussion.
You can look next door at West Bridgewater right now, because they're actually, and I'm familiar with what they're going through with their school district. So they're building houses similar to this right now in West Bridgewater. And they're far more reliant on school choice than we are to balance the budget, but some of the issues are similar. So what the issue becomes is, as the kids move into town and as they go through our school system, there may be capacity for them, but it may come at the cost of school choice kids coming in. So where part of our budget is balanced with school choice dollars that come in, or we pay for things with school choice dollars, that goes away when that seat is taken by someone who now lives in the town. And obviously, there's a tax influx for the town as well, but it's an offset in a lot of cases.
Well, it's not really an offset, it's usually a loss, because property tax is
Right.
a lot less than what it costs per student.
Correct.
We also have students that want to go to Southeastern because we don't offer the programming. I was not here when that building was built. I was not the superintendent or one of the principals that's saying we're going to offer CAD programs. I am right now, though, in my guidance department and in my building principal, in finding out what do we need to get kids CAD certified in these programs that we're offering here. And that's what we're going to be able to use some of that with the Stonehill, the photonics, because we do have the manufacturing class, manufacturing 1 and 2, that we're going to be able to combine with Stonehill. So these are things that we're trying to do more. And I'm, it takes you a while to get to know what's happening, but kids are, Southeastern, that's $1 million plus. Right? Health insurance. I don't know, I know for a fact, we belong to the GIC. I know for a fact there's 2 school districts who I sit at a table with at the Lighthouse and the South Shore superintendents who remained with their insurance company throughout, while we were going in the GIC, they stayed with, I think, Mayflower. Fraction of the cost of what we're paying. And they'll say that. They're like, oh, that's how we keep our money, or that's how this is, this has been good for us. But that's not my call. I'm just saying that those were things that are hitting us. The school, everything's increasing. There's a lot to be done. The homeless transportation, we took a hit on this year. Getting vans to bring kids in and out, and even into the collaboratives. You're looking at, we have kids, I'm opening programs. I'm going to open a program next year for 3 students that are under the age of 8 in this district, so I do not have to send them out, under the age of 7. Because right now, if I don't build that room, these children need extensive support. And I don't want to send them away from their parents, and we have a parent that is adamant. They don't want them leaving, they want them here. You got to keep them here. We don't have the resources and the support right now to have them here. But we have them. But we have that student here. And we're going to open a room, and Jay Fallon, our special ed director right now, is opening this room so that we can keep those students in-house instead of spending
About 180.
yeah,
200,000.
I was going to say 200,000. We have one at 68, one collaborative that would take, one student is at 68,000, another collaborative that would take, the other student would be at 59,000, and then one is, I think, at 87,000. So I'm trying to keep these kids in this district, and not just for the money, because they belong in their district. They belong so their mother can pick them up, or their father can grab them, the grandparent can get them. They don't need to be, down in Plymouth on a bus and to go back and forth if I can build a room. And that's something we look at. We built a room. My first year here, Patty Oakley called me, superintendent of West Bridgewater. She said, hey, you're going to build a room and I'm going to send my kids to you. I said, oh, all right. So we built a room over here for 2 kids. That room now is full of students that would have been district out. Would have been out district. So, I mean, we're doing everything we can to keep our kids with us, and doing exceptional at that. Jay's done a great job. He really has done a great job, but it is what, I mean, I hate to say that, it is, we're the school department, we're the largest, we're,
What, you've talked sort of a lot about, obviously, kids with needs.
Yep.
And all of that. What's the other end of the spectrum?
yeah.
And how is that being addressed for those who are talented
Yeah.
and need AP and all of that stuff? How
We
is-
have an extensive AP program. We're starting an early college program, so they can have we don't want dual enrollment, we want early college. We want kids to be able to take a college course, receive the credit in school during the day, so that they can go on and go to any school. We're hooked up with UMass, so they can go to any UMass school, and their credits can be transferred to any UMass school. And right now, our consortium is working with many of the colleges. DESE just put out I was glad that we started this 2 years ago on the South Shore, talking about early college with our consortium. Now DESE has picked it up. It's their number one push this year is early college. That's going to be a drive. Diversity, equity, inclusion is their number one drive from DESE right now, to make sure that all students feel comfortable in their district. Their second is going to be this early college. And I agree with that. We put so much money into it, our extended school year for IEP students in the summer program. Put a lot of money into that. I'm the one who's been challenging John to say, and Jay Fallon, if we're gonna put money, $80,000 towards that in the summer, why aren't we doing the same for students at the other side? And we're looking at that, and that's how this started 2 years ago, as I started to talk to my colleagues in the South Shore and said, hey, let's get a consortium, start working with colleges so that these kids get an opportunity to get credit here while in school. Our teachers will have a relationship with the colleges. We have a relationship with Assumption now. We have Assumption, Stonehill, Bridgewater State. Dr. Williams spoke to them today. We will have a relationship with Bridgewater State. We'll have one with UMass Dartmouth and all the UMass schools. Bard, Boston Architectural, I have a relationship with. So next year, we're trying to figure out how to get that into the day schedule, if we can, because the high school schedule is a melee, because it's just moving all the time, and it's very difficult. And not every high school is the same. One's 52 minutes, somebody else got 69 minutes. Some people have the double block, it's 90 minutes. And some are rotating, some are fixed, and so it's tough. But we're looking at that. We're also looking at the hybrid model, where students go to the campus 1 day a week or 2 days a week, and then virtually then an after-school model. We ran 4 courses at UMass Dartmouth this year. Our kids took him in the library from 4 to 6 at night, or 3 to 5 in the afternoon. They loved it. They got the college credit. You get AP credit when you take a college course. They got 3 credits, an AP, and we put it on their transcript, so it validates an AP course here at East Bridgewater. So it goes to their GPA here at the high school, and plus, they take 3 credits on their transcript to the college and say, hey, listen, I've already got my gen eds out of the way. That's my goal for the next 4 years, is to try to get kids to be able to get to the 12 to 18 credits to go to college and get their gen eds. And then we say back to the community, say, look, this is why we need this funding, we need this support. Is if I can get you 12 to 18 credits, you're starting off as a sophomore in college. And our teachers, we hope, this is our goal, is that some of our teachers would then hook up and be able to teach the college course from Assumption while they're here in East Bridgewater. So it's you don't get anything for nothing, but we're going to get something with what we have. And I think that those are the types of visionary items that I have on my goal list is this early college is, if we do so much here, why are we not doing it at the other side? And
I
so,
commend you for that. That's,
Any other questions? School committee, school department, sorry. Thank you for coming in. Thank you for getting the CBA done so that we do have some hard numbers. That's very helpful. We'll regroup and let you guys know if we have any questions or.
and I just want to mention, Dan, that I said it last week, we'll say it again. The new revised, we wanted to come up here first tonight before it went up on our website. This will go up tomorrow morning, so people will see the revised. I will fix that, my typo, and I'm gonna flog Mrs. Polisi when I get back.
You had responsibility for one slide.
I'm gonna just say this right now.
This is live. This is live.
Zach,
Swear me, I'm running for the
First of all, he came with no tie on. That's number one. And I said, John, please review these. Just a reminder
under
that.
the wheels.
she signed a contract in?
But it will be up tomorrow on the revised, and it will say revised, and then next week. Thank you.
Thank you very much. All right. Next up, we have the Recreation Commission here to talk about their 2023 budget requests and priorities.
Hiding behind the pool.
Yes. I've got the boss with me.
What did she do?
Yeah, right.
To be the monkey in the middle?
Yeah,
Excellent.
absolutely. So
Star of the
I'm,
show, brains behind the operation.
I'm only here for briefly just to let you know that for the last, about a year and a half, or maybe a little bit more than that, since I got the seat in the selectman's office, I've been a liaison for the rec department. And, you know, one of the things that I had advocated for was a stronger recreational department that had the tools and the necessities that they needed in order to run successfully as we reached out to other towns, Norwell, Whitman, Hanover, towns that we knew had a very successful program. So for over the last 20 months or so, this department with PJ Ferrier and Teresa McNulty and some other members that are here, well, John left out, but the other 7 or 8 members, they've really dug in and have done a lot with very minimal resources to put on a very successful summer concert, Summer Fest this past year. Helped the Christmas on the Common come back as well. They have some needs. Obviously, one of the biggest is a director at some point. Speaking to Dan for a time, I know he sent out some notifications to the FinCom about, you know, what your thoughts were, what your questions may be, and they all, in spreading them around to the department and to the different committee members, they all certainly understand the concerns and, you know, the questions that you have. At this point, you know, what I wanted to do is just kind of let the board members here, the two, treasurer, are you treasurer, right? Yeah, okay.
No, you're
Secretary.
Tommy
Tom's
Williams.
Tommy
treasurer.
Williams, we didn't bring Tommy, so. Secretary treasurer, treasurer's isn't here, but, and the chair, obviously, to talk
Tommy
a
did
little
give
bit.
me notes in case we.
Did he give you notes? Okay. Just to kind of give you an update of, you know, what we've done, what they've done, really. I've just kind of been sitting in the seat, and what they've done over the course of that time to really put themselves in a position where, you know, we're going to see some changes just in this year alone. Some things that they have in the works. We've been able to work with the state. We'll talk a little bit about that, and briefly just open up the discussion about what the process is, I guess, because I don't know when the last time they sat in front of FinCom is or what their budget is. I know it's not a lot.
Our budget is $1,000. I'm
okay.
sure you know. It was 500 until a couple of years ago, so I
Oh,
guess.
you didn't tell me you got doubled.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, I mean, following the school department with their, budget,
Right.
we probably the smallest.
I think it's safe to say we're the
Safe to
smallest.
say we're probably the smallest when it comes to any budgetary.
But the most fun.
yeah.
Yeah, we
Well,
are the
I
most
mean,
fun.
we try, but having fun costs
Yeah.
money.
So there's some needs and there's some growth that they'll look at over the course of the next 2, 3, up to 5 years, and they'll work on giving you a better platform, obviously, of what they hope to to achieve over that period of time, but to get to where we started on very low budgetary monies, and to get to the next level, there are some needs that they certainly have this year, and my reason for being here is just to show my support behind this department and behind the individuals that have done a great job in the course of at least the time that I've seen in working to try to build this to something that the town's going to recognize and the town's going to start to flourish from. So that's my spiel. You guys take it from
There
here.
you go. Well, first of all, thank you very much for
Thanks,
showing your
Peter.
support. It's nice to be recognized and so forth. I'm Peter Fury. I'm chair of the Recreation Commission. Teresa McNulty, who's the secretary. And I think, Peter touched upon a couple of things, obviously budgetary being one of them. But I think I kind of want to start this off in a little bit of a reverse role and say, well, what do you all think that the Recreation Department should be in charge of? Well, what do you think we should be tasked with? Well, then I guess our $1,000 budget is sufficient.
I mean, my experience in another community is that, you have a recreation department which, sort of initially started out, serving folks of all ages, with things like concerts, things like, youth activities and, things of that ilk. Over the course of time, it was gradually broken down so that, sort of separate departments assumed separate roles in each of those kind of age categories. But then it sort of went back together again, and one of the comments that I raised, and Dan had asked the questions, what do you think, was whether there would be any economies in making something in the way of a human services department in the town of East Bridgewater, which would serve, the elder population, the youth, and, the needs, and because certainly what you do, or what you would do, I think, is a very valuable component in any community. So, maybe that's something that you sort of broaden the scope of the
Yep.
next few years, or whatever it is.
Right.
But, I think that anything in the way of organized activities for, kids on up through adults is always a great thing in a community, and certainly support that.
Well, thank you very much. And I think that that's certainly something that we believe in and we're passionate about. And we feel as though, the community and whether it be separately, whether it be through the school department or whether it be through, various other departments, in town, Council on Aging,
And the great thing I think about the town of East Bridgewater is you've got good facilities, you've got new fields, or relatively new fields that are in good condition, you've got a great senior center, all of these resources that are there,
So-
and just sort of wanting to be.
So how do we build upon those things?
Exactly.
Is kind of,
Exactly,
and I would say that the I guess in the history of the town and how old the town is, we do have incredible resources from from fields and certain facilities, and I think that there's other departments that do a phenomenal job at helping.
Yeah, not to toot anybody's horn, but, that's,
But
You
we
know,
couldn't, we couldn't
We
do a
couldn't-
lot of what
couldn't-
we do
couldn't
without
a lot of it
John
without
and
the
the
shared
DPW.
services
Absolutely.
of some departments, and Public Works is obviously an incredible part of why those fields are in great shape. It's obviously not from the $500 and now $1,000 budget.
right.
It's not from us. But I would also say it's probably been built upon years and years of volunteerism and people who worked hard at a snack shack, or who were, the president of baseball or soccer or whatever youth program, uses those fields and so forth. And I don't know where we're at right now, but I feel as though volunteerism is actually kind of at a really difficult spot. It's being challenged and so forth. And I think part of my passion is that I care so much about the people that have come before and the hard work that they put forward in making those facilities first class, and the current people who are helping make sure that they stay first class. I think we need to have a plan in place long-term to make sure that they're established, that they're under good stewardship and so forth. And I'm afraid that if we don't put a little bit more effort into making sure of that, I'm not sure what will happen to those wonderful fields and so forth. And I think that fields are part of it, and then I think the whole other side of the recreation department is recreation, right? It's having fun and so
Absolutely,
forth. So
yep.
whether it's Christmas on the Common, which has kind of had a quasi subcommittee of rec and so forth.
Oh,
and,
the parade committee.
the parade committee, I'm
Parade committee's
sorry.
underneath the Recreation Commission.
Which is part of the Christmas parade and the culmination of Christmas on the Common, which is part of Kiwanis.
Right.
So kind of tying those things together and making sure that something like that, or last year where we had a summer fest and so forth, and it used to always be Dale and the Duds and so forth, that's kind of always been something that we felt as though we're charged with trying to bring the community together and so forth. And I think that that's what we believe, Recreation Commission needs to be about. And, we're here to kind of try to give back to the town as much as we possibly can, given various resources or whatever it might be. And Peter touched upon a couple little things. It was nice to hear Superintendent Legault talk about pay for play and those types of things. And she had mentioned she doesn't want a kid to have to pay to play for basketball. I couldn't agree with that statement more. We just need a basketball court for kids to play on. The basketball court, I think, was probably...
Good segue.
I don't know, how many years ago was that installed? 30? Okay. So, we didn't do enough 30 years ago to make sure we maintained that investment, and now we're left with something that's deemed unsafe. And through some hard work of a number of people on rec and DPW and Selectman Spagone, we were able to get a grant from the state for $55,000.
$55,000. yeah.
$55,000.
And thanks to Allison Sullivan, who was instrumental in getting us that money, because.
A big thanks to her. She reached out to us.
And said, is there anything that you have that needs to be done that we could put forth? And they came back and approved John wrote up the prospective proposal, and we sent it in, and they came back and said, we got the money. And that's gonna go a long way toward getting some work done down there. We're talking about the Hobart Street part of the Church Street complex where the basketball courts have fallen into disrepair, and the adjacent
Ice
skating, or
hockey.
street hockey
Street
rink that was deemed unsafe by the fire chief is gonna get completely redone down there, largely thanks to this money. And John Haynes' work with an agency that came down and looked at it and gave us an estimate. There will be, to do the whole job, will be roughly $100,000, but we've already got $55,000 in the bank. So That's a really huge thing, since we haven't had any way to do any capital projects for so long. So, you know, that's gonna be a really nice area once we start working.
Yeah, I
on
think
that.
we had a small little victory with a capital project a couple years ago where we had similar concerns with the central school as far as being ADA compliant and so forth. So at the snack shacks and to use the restrooms at Church Street facility, we kind of had to bring that up in order, you know, from an ADA compliance and so forth. But there's a lot of things that probably happen that, you know, John and his department kind of really do a yeoman's task and handle, whether it be removal of bleachers that are hazardous and safety hazards fully identified and so forth. And we couldn't thank, you know, the DPW enough and everything that they do to help keep some of that stuff going. So, and I agree with you that it's all different groups. So I would love for there to be like an understanding of how we can incorporate pickleball and things of that nature into it. And I would say that we're kind of like a startup organization in the sense that we have a whole bunch of great ideas, and we think that there are needs that you know, service the town, and we've gotten some data. We've had all of the groups do some reporting as to, you know, what they'd like to see or various needs for their kind of their little, you know, whether it be baseball or soccer. So we've started to pull some of that data together so we can kind of present and put together a 1 year, a 3 year, a 5 year plan. But we've got to start somewhere. And I think that that's why we're here tonight, is to ask that maybe consider us, you know, when it comes to the budgetary process and so forth.
$2,000.
We'll take two, and we'll have twice as good of a time.
Well, I mean, just for example, when we put on the Summerfest, which I know Crystal was there, and she can probably tell you, we had a pretty good turnout considering it was, you know, still in the throes of COVID. And but we had
Helps
some.
that it was outside, definitely.
Right, it was a nice day, and again, fire, police, and DPW all gave their time and helped us to make it a successful and safe event. But we had a great turnout, and there was music, and there were some groups that came and provided activities for the kids. All the sports were there. They had some fun activities for the kids to do, and we saw people of all ages. We had food trucks, but that event cost us $7,800 to put on. You know, and we'd love to do 3 or 4 of those every year, different types of events, but everything comes with a cost. And so we took from money that was actually brought in by Strong's Field, which thanks to John Shea for all the work he does, because he volunteers and does a ton of work down there. But we need money in order to put on these events. And fundraising, everybody's looking for money, so.
Generally, the funds that get brought in through Strong's Field get put right back into Strong's Field.
Right.
But as a commission, we decided that it was coming out of COVID. The town and the community and people needed a reason to get outside and kind of commune again, and hopefully everybody had a nice time. And then same thing with the parade committee. I don't know if anybody knows this or not, but you know, when there's a long line, when there's a consistent leader and there's a structure involved, events can kind of, they go along fairly smooth. Well, we lost not only a member of the Recreation Commission, but he was also chair of the parade.
When Bob Packer passed.
When Bob Packer passed, he was the driving force of kind of making sure that the parade came together.
He had a manual. He had everything down to a T, and he knew everybody to call to bring in the best. You know, we had huge parades, and he knew how to fundraise like nobody's business. But last year, poor Melody took it over, and she's tried so hard, and fundraising has been tough, especially with COVID. And the rec gave them $2,000 last year toward the parade.
I think it was $4,000.
But it cost them $4,000 altogether.
Was that what it was?
Because they kept it scaled down, because that's all they
That's
could. I mean, they had a little event at Meadowbrook, tried to raise some money, but they almost didn't have the parade. We figure if we lose those things, we'll
They're
never
never
get them
coming
back.
back.
You know what I mean? And it's a tradition.
Yeah.
So Kiwanis stepped up and they worked together, and it came together, and it turned out nice. But again, more money that we.
So I think that the other side of this is that eventually I think hopefully what we'd like to do is make sure a lot of this stuff is self-sufficient, and Selectman Spagone spoke earlier on about other towns and kind of what they do. They have successful programs because it's been consistent. People know what to expect year after year after year. So like a town like Whitman runs a 6 or 8 week summer program, and it's $140 per, per child, and it caps at the family and so forth. But those children in the summertime from July 5th through August, whatever it is, they have a place to go that is, inside the community, that at a reasonable number. But we want those things to be self-sufficient and self-funded. We don't want to have to come here and say, hey, listen, we need money now, and then we need money again. And then eventually what we think should happen is that those programs tend to be self-funded, would be the long-term goal.
And we want to offer more programs. We want to have more things for the kids to do, because not everybody participates in Little Vikings, and not everybody's of the right ages for Little Vikings. So we need more for the kids to do. Not everybody can afford daycare for their kids, and moms take time off or whatever, but we want to have more than just a few things to offer. We want to have inclusive programs, and we don't want it just to be summer. We want it to be things that can go on all year round. And why couldn't we have a robotics thing? Why couldn't we have cooking? I mean, there's so many things we could do.
This is kind of simple, but my kids loved the Easter egg hunt that
Right.
used to be put on
Right.
every year, and how simple
Right.
was that? Like,
And
a
it
guy
was so
dressed up
much
in a
fun. We had
jumpsuit.
great turnout.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know
Just
who
little
was in
things
there.
like that,
Well, that was a tough year because we got locked out of the school one year, if I'm not mistaken. But John was nice enough to come down and open it up for us, if I remember that right.
Traumatized from it, but that's okay. We
That's
can move
it.
on.
Yeah, I
We
mean, I
recovered.
think we still have that Easter outfit somewhere.
I mean,
We'll have to dust
what do you guys see as the roadmap to get from today to that? I mean, does that mean that you would say, okay, Finance Committee, we think that we could use $50,000, and among us volunteers and what have you, we can put some good things together? Or are we saying, no, we have to hire someone to basically take control of a recreation department and?
So I tend to think the answer is yes to both of that, unfortunately.
Both of those.
Right.
But I think that there's a little chicken and egg there, right?
Yeah.
And I would tell you that I'm a crawl walk run guy. I generally don't say, give us all these funds and we'll show you what to do.
Yep.
Because the last thing I would want to do is disappoint anybody when it came to that. The taxpayers of the community, everything's going up, you know what I mean? So they're, eventually they'll feel a pinch if they're not already feeling a pinch. So we always make sure that we pay a good attention to making sure that, we're fiscally responsible with some of those things. So the short answer is I think that there should be a staggered kind of approach to how we fund a recreation department, and then hopefully somewhere along the way, they kind of meet in the middle. And that some of that self-funding stuff, we don't need as much money as maybe we need to get up and going. And that's why
So we're maybe looking for some seed money at this point to get our program started. The programs generate some money, then we're in a position we don't have to necessarily so much use the seed money. We can get a part-time person and.
Correct,
Exactly.
correct. But I think the other part of this is that there's the whole, there's kind of like, that I would be considered as operationally funding needs, but then I think that there's capital needs with regards to facilities and of those types of
Right.
things. So we couldn't have paid for that to make the Church Street snack stand ADA compliant out of ours. We worked with the town and capital to give us, not to give us, but to provide, I think it was $25,000 at the time. And it wasn't enough, and, we had to dig in some other areas to find ways to make it happen, but we made it happen, and I think it was very successful. It was a good crawl. Now we gotta get walking.
No, a few
So-
times. Oh, I'm so sorry.
Oh, no, I was just saying, so from an operational perspective, if we said, we can allocate $10,000 to the rec commission. Do you have a plan, like, we can do this at 10, we can do this at 20, we can do this at 30, we can?
So from an operational standpoint, I think that if that were the case, then it would still be on a lot of it would obviously be on the backs of the volunteers. But I think we could probably put together a couple of nice concert events in the summertime. I think, to echo Teresa, we certainly want to keep anything that's already up and running. We kind of want to keep that up and running because we're concerned about it faltering. So from an operational standpoint, I don't want to speak for the entire rec. I would want to make sure we take that to a vote. But whatever funds were available, we'd want to find out how much we'd be able to afford operationally to send to something like a parade or to send to the concerts and so forth.
I mean, can you come back to us or provide us with sort of those numbers? I mean,
So sure, so-
here's the 5 events that
So-
we sponsor typically
So
through the year, here's what
the parade,
what the cost is.
The parade, I think, was 4,000 over the past couple of years. We provided 2, but I think Bob reached out to Melody and she said it was 4 over the past couple of
Yes,
years.
that's right.
Summerfest was $8,000. So for those 2 events, from an operational standpoint, that's $12,000. We could certainly find a way to, have that be 10 or have that be 15. Some of the other things that we've thought about doing were like movie nights in the summertime. We've got, the other things that I'm kind of getting looped into by somebody over there who is, we've got to also pay attention to the town's anniversary, which is coming up
Yeah.
soon. So I look at that as part of, I would like the recreation department to be
As a-
involved in that.
Probably where it should originate, yeah.
And I always get back to that kind of shared
There is a
services
committee
thing.
already for
Yes.
that, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
there is.
Yeah.
Yes. And we have a representative on that committee.
The representative's been out of town for travel a couple of times so I'm failing in my duties.
But they want to have activities every month, and we want to be supportive, of course, of what they are doing, and maybe build on some of those things as well. But the other thing, going forward, we are all thinking about in terms of is all of the sports teams. We've met with them all now. We had Jen Pohl has gone and met with them all. They've been coming in more. We're trying to build relationships with all of the different youth sports organizations, so we have a much better feel of what their growth potential is, what their real needs are, what that'll look like next year and the year after. So we have sort of a capital layout that's been put together of what their requests are going to look like financially. To repair, say, the roof on one of the concession stands or something, capital types of things, repairs that need to be done. So we're keeping that also in mind, separate from the operating budget. We're going to have some capital needs that are going to have to be done for the town. And then long-term, we're looking at things like, what else are we going to do for the people of East Bridgewater? And how can we make things even more available in the community, inclusive. So one of the things that we're working on, can I talk about that?
Sure.
Okay. Is the Leland Farms property, which the town has owned for a long, long time. And there's been feasibility studies done up there for the senior center to go there. There's been one for the high school to go there. We would like to see it be a real recreational area for families and the community. So we're talking about looking for a feasibility study to be done to talk about some infrastructural things, a picnic area, a real town playground. Because right now, there's the school playgrounds and there's that little playground at Hobart Street, but nothing really central to draw people in.
It's a great resource. I mean, just
Right.
my
It's there
my
doing
second
nothing.
hometown here in
You
East
know what I
Bridgewater,
mean?
but, my original hometown did that a number of years ago. They invested in a farm
Mm-hmm.
and are able to now run all sorts of farmers markets, as you say, picnics, the whole.
It's really
a great-
endless
It's a
opportunity,
great community opportunity,
know?
yeah.
And it abuts, the other side is Belmont Street, and we can expand the fields as needed. Lacrosse is looking for field space, and there's so many things that can be done up there. There's all kinds of opportunities. Hanover's done a wonderful job with building fields, and So we've got some feelers out to some engineering firms and architectural engineering firms and looking for some feedback of what a feasibility study would cost and get that ball rolling so that we can start. We know it'll be a multi-phase plan, but we're just thinking in terms of, opportunities for the future, what it's gonna look like. We're trying to be visionary and think, long-term, how we can really.
Yeah, I mean, what do you think would be the protocol here? I mean, do you say?
we're looking
you
for
guys-
guidance
right,
as
you
to-
guys throw out a number to us and,
So,
I think the response from, I had individual emails with each member of the committee, just, asking for their feedback and what they wanted to see. There's overwhelming support and recognition that East Bridgewater needs a recreation commission, that throughout the community, we want to see activities for all age groups, and we want to be able to try and support that. The flip side of that is that we just want to see a plan. We
Right.
want to see something put together that shows us that, because there's a lot of requests from a lot of different departments this year, for personnel increases and different things. So we just want to make sure that, what is it? Is it 25,000? Is it 30,000?
So, in order, I would tell you, at least in this year, from an operational standpoint, it would probably be closer to that 15 number if we want to do parade, if we want to do Summerfest, if we wanted to do another event. All right, and I'm not going to tell you we're going to spend all that 15, but I'm going to tell you that's probably what it is.
So Summerfest was $8,000.
Right.
How did you pay for that this year?
That were funds that came in through Strong's Field primarily, which for the most part we put back into Strong's Field. That gets rented. So there's two other things, and I'll get to that point in a second. The other side is the capital side of it, and the capital side of it is the last thing I think we want to do is spend $55,000 worth of grant money from the state and have something that's not complete. And John, you put together a spreadsheet. John Shea, I believe, we put together some spreadsheets with the help of John Haynes that Teresa said the project's about $100,000. So that would be $45,000 in capital. So I would say that the request is for 60 for this year. That would be. And
Capital's through the capital committee.
yeah,
Right.
Yeah,
We're
we're saying we're
talking
breaking it
all
up
the
through
dollars.
all the dollars. Back to your point. So one of the things that we haven't touched upon is that's great that we have all these wonderful fields and facilities. Do we know who is using them and whether or not they're insured and whether or not they have the correct liability to protect the town and so forth? Do we have a system in place to make sure that however funds are coming in correctly through the town and so forth? Are we making sure that user fees, should we have a user fee-based system by sport or should it be by community? So these are all things that I think we really kind of need to get our arms around.
John,
And-
you're in charge of that, right?
No.
You. Your field, right?
No, we
No,
maintain, we don't
no.
manage. That was laid out early on in the
Grants
process.
that was given to you by Allison or that she kind of brought to your
State,
attention,
yes.
is that an annual where you can apply each year, or is this a one-time thing?
No, it was a one-time deal.
I believe it
Yes.
was.
Yeah, it was
Yeah.
through, there was one of the 16 APR fund
Okay.
situations, which was separate from what the town individually is looking at getting. It was a one-time expenditure
Okay.
for recreation, so.
Do we have an amount, or how much it would be for a feasibility study for Leland Farms for the?
We're in the middle of looking
Yeah,
into
we've,
that.
I've put feelers out and I'm waiting for feedback from 3 different places. So we'll know about that.
And that's where, like, we have various departments that come to us and say, hey, listen, we'd like to put lighting up here, and we'd be like, that's great, but you really don't have a plan, you don't have a budget for it, we can't even consider that to be put on our docket until we have more information. But then that gets to the bigger question to me, which is that whole shared services. Why would we put lights over here and then lights over there, and then it doesn't make sense to me, but.
Well, I know for like soccer, as an example, because my kids are involved in that they always said that the snack bar is what kind of
Generates the funds.
kept them sustainable.
Yep.
A lot of times this year, it was closed because they don't have, there's no
Volunteers.
system in place for the volunteers, like, so say like this team on this Saturday, parents from this team should be signing up between these hours or whatever. So I guess is that eventually what you'd like a director to do is to look across all the sports and be able to assist that way as well?
That's one of the potential ways. We're also looking at a director to be driving programs, looking out into the community, finding out what programs would be of interest, setting up programs that way, being a creative arm for us, and thinking outside the box of how we can get more kids engaged.
Yeah,
What's really of interest, And not only that, but what community-wise, how do we get older folks to want to participate in community activities? Things that they can't get at the COA, or partner with the COA to do additional things, for the older people in the community. Because everybody, I hear all the time, oh, well, I didn't know there was a school play, or I didn't know there was a concert, because there's not enough communication to let everybody know. So eventually, the rec director would hopefully be able to work with all the sports teams, but the other departments as well, to come up with some great programs and events. And we'd like to see things more cohesively in one place, too.
Right.
The rec department website should have links to all of the different sports. There should be connections that way, They should be able to go to one place and look and see. I see all the time on Facebook, how can I sign my kid up for T-ball? Where do I go for soccer? All those things should be in one-stop shopping, and that's what we're hoping eventually the rec director will also be able to do, things like that.
I got a call tonight asking if a field was available what night, and I'm like, I don't really know. I'll have to get back to
Because the
you.
website will need a little updating, but
So what, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, we've obviously taken up a fair amount of time. We thank you very much for your time. Do you have any questions?
Now, I would just say if you want to put something together for us to say, for fiscal year 2023, we want to do A, B, C, D. This is the dollar amount associated with each of them, and then we can incorporate that into our overall.
okay.
I think we've got the framework of it already set up, John. Yep. So we've got that framework.
John has my email address. He can send it over to me.
1,050 max, that's it.
I like it. Yeah. So the only thing I would ask that you consider is that I recognize that there's an ask, and you guys have a lot of asks that get put in front of you. A lot of those asks are from departments that have a consistent funding kind of calculation, and that come to you every single year. And that's why I say we're probably a little bit different in the sense that I hope this is the first of many years that we get to sit in front of you and have these conversations and so forth.
Definitely.
We look forward to having you guys at a concert sometime.
I commend you
Absolutely.
for your passions. I think,
Thank you so much for your
I
time.
think it's great, and it's, hopefully it all comes to fruition.
There you go.
Agreed.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you.
See you at the Easter egg hunt.
Yeah, right.
It'll be the one with the long white ears.
Okay. With that, we'll invite Charlie, our town administrator, up. I have a.
You're in the middle then.
Originally, I was going to ask, like we had talked about, for you to kind of give an overview. Maybe we go high level since things changed today, which is fine. So we
Right.
may need to take another. So I don't want you to feel like you're put on the
No, I
spot.
understand, yeah. Back last week, Dan and myself and Melanie Dean, our town accountant, met together to talk about, not the individual line items, but to get a high-level idea of where we sit with the budget requests versus what our projected revenues are. Both Melanie and I come from cultures, and I don't mean religious or ethnic, it's more government policy-oriented cultures, that free cash is not used to fund operating expenses. I think, and probably, I think for the most part in East Bridgewater, that's been the case. But we were running the budget numbers, and we got to the end on Thursday in preparation for the meeting with Dan on Friday and said, there's something wrong here. We've got a budget deficit projected based on conservative estimates for the school, knowing almost everything else that has come in. And what's wrong here? Because in December and January,
when I was looking at our projected revenues and our projected expenses. I said, what's our projected increase in revenues in actual dollars? Okay, there's that. Expenses, it's actually less. So we've got a little bit of more money to play with in the sense of, if we want to be able to do pay increases, we'll be able to do that. If we want to start new programs, add new personnel, we'll be able to do that. Not realizing that for fiscal '22, the town had used free cash to balance the books, to pay for operating costs. So we talked with Dan about this on Friday. Obviously, it's not good news that we'd be running a deficit. The good news, however, is that we do have $4.3 million in free cash that's available. Turning the faucet off right immediately would be extremely difficult. Forgetting even about the school's budget that came in today, based on the conserve estimates we were using, it was going to be very, very difficult. And not a 180-degree turn from where we were or what we were talking about a couple months ago, but a very different look at what we could be doing. And so I talked with Dan, I talked with Melanie about, instead, we need to do a glide path, in that if we're going to be using free cash to balance the books in fiscal '23, we also need to set up a policy that says within 3 or 4 years, we need to stop doing that. I don't mean do it this way and then drop. I mean, do a glide path so that we have a nice landing in '26 or '27. So whatever we use in fiscal '23, we use much less in '24, then even less, I guess is the best way of putting it, in '25 and so forth. And get to a point in '26 or '27 where we're not using free cash again. The alternative is to start, look at this again and say, we're not gonna use free cash. What can we do? Which is not gonna be a lot. The number we were using, even with a conservative 3% increase for the East Bridgewater Public School System, which included their entire budget, and also a 3% increase for Southeastern, which actually has come in within, I think, $3,000 of that,
$3,000,
one
yeah.
way or the other. Was about $770,000 in the hole. So it's either wind back the budgets for the individual departments and eliminate that deficit, or continue to use free cash, but make that decision that on a policy from you all, from the selectmen, and ultimately from town meeting, that we're gonna get away from doing that in future years. Not all once, but on a gradual course. Even forgetting about Route 18, we would have to do that. If Route 18 comes to fruition, if all those developments go in, obviously, as Liz was mentioning, there are downsides, there are upsides. We'd be seeing more property tax revenues, we may be needing more services, we'll see how all that falls out. But I wouldn't depend on Route 18 happening, not because, I don't think it will, I think we're gonna aim to have that happen. But it's still very uncertain and should not factor into decisions we're making today, as to whether that's gonna occur or not.
When you're doing this calculation, what budget are you using? Are you using their real needs budget?
Yes, no, not the real needs budget, initially we were using the level service budget. Real needs was another 300,000, I think.
I think so.
Relatively speaking. So we'd be somewhere between $1 million and $1.1 million.
Yeah, it was just about 300,000 more.
And that, again, was based on a conservative 3% increase in the school budget, which is not what was brought to. I'm not criticizing Liz and John at all. I mean, obviously, they still need discussions at the school committee to come up with an actual budget that they're gonna bring to the finance committee. You'll need to make decisions on making recommendations. But that number, the use of free cash, if we're going to be saying yes to the level service budgets that were presented, plus what the school's asking for, would be significantly more than even the 1.1.
So the school reviewed theirs tonight, and their increase over last year's town component was 4%. So,
And what kind of, if we think back to why this kind of happened, right? if, and I'm trying to remember when we had meetings, because things kept getting postponed because of COVID. But when we had the meeting was in, the former town administrator was still here. So I want to say it was December of 2020. Doesn't that sound right? When we had,
Fine,
and
we're
that's when we
just-
took the $1.6 million and it was put into an operational reserve fund or stabilization fund. And that was then pulled out to use in the fiscal year 22 budget. Does that ring a bell with everyone?
Out.
So it was set aside, so it was,
Well, not the whole 1.6, wasn't it like 1.2?
maybe less was pulled out, yes, but my point is it was from a previous fiscal year. It was just put into an operational stabilization fund and then pulled out to balance the budget at the last town meeting. It was taken
So
from.
I don't know that it was necessarily like a true use of free cash in that sense, you know, I mean, it was always planned to be that way, right? I mean, based on the fact that there was just an unknown, and so many things were being postponed and, you know, what have you, it was just put
Trying to think
aside.
back to the discussions.
I think.
That was the extra money we got from the Hanson component, right?
Some of that was that, yes, because the property sold for over $1 million. Well, the free
That's
cash.
that's in this year's
This
free
year's
cash.
budget, the 4.3
That wasn't in the
includes
previous.
Hanson land, you're right,
So with minus the Hanson land money, free cash is coming in at what this year?
by 3.
Which I would argue, not argue, I think if we're putting forward budgets that have $3 million in free cash, we're budgeting very conservatively. I mean, in an environment where departments have needs, I have a hard time saying we have something's not right with the budget process. If we have $3 billion in free cash and we're telling departments that have true needs that they can't fund them out of free cash, it's really not free cash. It's really something that was probably not misappropriated, but not adequately appropriated in the previous year. That's how, does that,
It was not adequately, I would say it was more than adequately, because it's money that wasn't spent, right?
Or that you were very conservative on your revenue projections.
right. So what I'm saying is and maybe we need a little bit more work to figure out exactly if it's a savings on expenses or if it's a under budgeting on revenue. But if let's say it's under budgeting on revenue,
Well,
or
we
it's,
shouldn't have $3 million in free cash.
I agree. Right.
So we're saying that if we took the more conservative level-funded budgets that have been
Level service budget.
level service budgets, okay, that have been presented to us, as opposed to the real needs budgets, we're at $770,000 negative
Yes.
Prior to the school.
prior to the
revision.
school, so add 300,000, let's say, so we're talking about whatever that 1.0 whatever. And, okay, if we took the real needs budgets and add the schools to that,
And you're up at
Like a-
1.3.
Well, the schools you had calculated in at 3%, right?
I calculated in at 3.
So they're only up at 4%, so it's not that much of a
right,
difference.
right, no, that's right, so, but what's that number, Dan?
That would be
1.1?
call it 1.25. So I think that's what we have to do between now and where we get to the finish line. We have to do, I think, a little bit more work on the town side to understand where did that $3 million come from?
Plus an extra 50 for the rec commission. Can't forget about that.
We
So
didn't have
for
that.
example, years ago, when healthcare cost, well, no, they're crazy now too, but I remember when we projected, I think we're looking at like a 13% increase
I
one
remember
year, it
those,
was
not
crazy
here,
or
but
something
next
like
door, I
that.
remember.
So we budgeted for that, but it came in at
And
like
less.
8%.
Yes.
So there was a lot of extra cash that came back. there was a time when we budgeted for insurance because there was some issue around insurance, we budgeted X amount. So, you know, I would say that's the conservative people saying, okay, we gotta make sure we got ourselves covered here. And the next year it came back and there was $400,000 that came back from that, so I think I agree, we need to look at where this money's coming from, what are we underfunding? You know, what makes sense? Are our projections accurate on our revenue? How accurate has our projections been? And is it really a revenue projection issue or a funding issue?
Right, because it's not, I mean, it's not fair to have organizations in town like, we talked about the library, that has never come and asked for, you know, anything extra, or the rec commission, or, you know, at least need more personnel, and we have something off in this process that are funds that they could use that we're not.
What I can do is, Melanie's been in class this week, I can talk with her. I know when the state develops its free cash official number, they have various spreadsheets that generate the number, and we can work back on those and say, as you're mentioning, where did it come from? Did it come from underestimating revenues, or how much did it come back from a return from the line item expenses?
Right.
Or both.
Well, I don't know if we used to be conservative on revenues. I don't know how conservative they have been, but when I was on the board, we used to be very conservative about the revenues. So,
I thought that from talks with the interim town administrator, I thought they kind of toned that back, that it wasn't overly conservative because we were doing ourselves a disservice by doing so. But again, I think let's let Melanie and Charlie kind of crunch the numbers, come back, and then we need to get a feel as a committee as to like what's appropriate. I mean, it's not good to spend to the last penny. I'm sure we all agree on that. But when you have $3 million,
$3 million's
a
is
lot.
too much.
Yeah, I agree.
You know, I remember
year.
back
Especially when you have 5 years of capital
back
payments.
in the very
and, you know.
lean years, back in the early 2000s, we used to get like 1.2 million, 1.5 million, things like that. We never had 3 million.
Right.
You know, there was one year we got 600,000 back, you know, so.
Yeah. So I mean, that would be my recommendation. If everyone's okay
You're
with
all
that.
meeting next week on the 24th?
We can.
Well,
So
I'm
we
not saying, I don't,
so we don't have anything scheduled. So if you want to touch base with me tomorrow and let me know how much
too.
time you think you
Right.
need, and then we can get something on the calendar to reconvene. And it'll be good to have
I
Melanie.
don't
here
even know
as
if
well.
we'll be right by Monday, because again, I don't know if Melanie's gonna be, which days this week, if Melanie's gonna be back Thursday and or Friday.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine. I mean, you and I can
just wanted
touch
to-
base
sure.
tomorrow, and we'll figure out a date, and then I'll
Yeah.
get with the committee, and we'll get it all figured out.
All right,
Any other discussion points?
sounds like a plan.
I've got none.
Any other questions and anything else you wanna ask at this point? Do you have me?
I mean, it's a good problem to have. I'd rather say that we have 3 million in free
Right,
cash than
yes.
not.
Right.
So we'll
Well, that's why, I
get to
mean,
the bottom of
you
it.
know, in terms of talking with Dan and talking with Melanie, they got me off the ledge to say, look, we do have this amount of money in free cash. If it was another year, another time, I'd be saying,
We
And if
just
that
need-
was-
We need to understand
Where it came from, right? Because if you came to us and said the entire amounts from the Hanson land sale, well, then that's a one-time event. It
Right,
doesn't make
yeah.
sense. But if that's not what it's from,
Yeah, but if the preponderance comes from a particular department that didn't spend it, we know they're over budgeting because they're doing it off the prior year's budget, what was
Right.
approved at town meeting. So will help us fine tune our process.
agreed. Right, because we might be able to tweak some individual budgets and things like that as well, so.
wait, I will stay in touch.
Yes, thank you,
all.
Charlie.
Thank you.
With that,
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
And
favor?
Oh, sorry, did we have a second?
we didn't.
Second.
No, nobody wants that. Let's stay.
Nobody wants a
so-
second,
All
everyone.
right, we have a motion, second, all in favor, we are good. Thank you all, thank you,
Thank you.
East Bridgewater, we will see you soon.
Thanks, Zach.